Hi guys, welcome to the Improvement Season podcast. I'm Steve as always, and I'm joined with Pascal as always.
Have you forgotten your name?
I don't know why I had to introduce myself, but yeah, if you're unaware, I am Steve. And because Pascal always goes over his week first, I'm going to go over mine first of all. And this week has been my first whole week in a mini cut. Basically, I started on Monday, so today will be the first whole week. And I guess the biggest change for me has been the hunger change, and that was pretty immediate actually, which is surprising because I remember reading something by Lyle McDonald where it was like, I think leptin levels only really change once the body really recognizes it's in a diet, and that normally takes like 2 to 3 days. But I can even remember clients saying like they're in like a day after their diet and they're like, I'm already really hungry. So now I can sympathize with them because I need to remember this, like the hunger kicks in quite quickly for some people, or like for myself. So yeah, hunger's been fairly real, but managing things, I haven't kind of overeaten at all. Gone from 4,000 calories, over 600 grams of carbs, to 2,200 basically, and just over 200 grams of carbs. So 400 gram carb drop, which is quite hilarious because associated with that was also a large weight drop. So
you're just eating 1 pack of cereals less a day now.
Yeah, just not eating that whole pack of what was I eating? Crunchy nut cornflakes are very good if you hadn't had those, Pascal. You had cornflakes?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I did in my life have cornflakes, right? And also crunchy nuts, but I think crunchy nuts and cornflakes I haven't had in, let me just think about it, I think in 20 years.
Wow. It's
and I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. So, yeah.
I love, like, if people are like, what's your all-round favorite cereal? I'm like, you know what, this one ticks all the boxes pretty much.
Really?
Yeah, I really like Honey Nut.
I could really think of so many other cereals that are more in my top 5 rate list or something. Especially, you know the ones I'm talking about. We talked with Miguel about the 100% whole grain Cheerios.
Don't get those at all.
Yes.
To me, that's like saying my favorite, I don't know, I'd much prefer boiled white potatoes than chips. I think I actually do.
No, yes, hey, boiled potatoes are the shit, actually.
They're boring as hell.
No, I actually really love it. Especially, okay, here comes the topping, and that is quark. Quark, so boiled potatoes, dipping in quark.
Or just some chips dipped in ketchup.
Nah, that's something not mine.
This is the thing.
You are so American. You're so American.
Or just very typical of the majority of the population.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know about you, Pascal. Actually, this is a complete side topic, but I hear those people who are like, yeah, junk food doesn't appeal to me. Like, oh, McDonald's is disgusting, blah, 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 blah. And I'm often thinking like, and I've heard Mike talk about this, he's like, but these fast food companies make food, like they design food to be absolutely delicious and for you to crave it and want it more. You're talking shit. If you're saying like you don't like pizza, ice cream, like these delicious foods that are designed for humans to be absolutely like outrageously delicious, like highly palatable foods. And I think some people, and I've had it with myself, like I've said to Charlotte like, oh, I don't like pastry, or I don't like cheese, or I don't like cream. But these were things I put into my head because I was like, no, that's high fat. That's not good for my goals, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, actually, when I ate them, I was like, fuck, I really like pastry. It's delicious. But I know I shouldn't go there too often.
I think definitely there's a point to what Mike is saying in terms of palatability on a broader spectrum. But I think for myself, when I relate to that, or try to relate to that, because I'm never craving like pizza or burgers or anything like that. And that's not because I put a thought into my head that it's not good or anything like that. But it's more so that my sense buds react differently to certain, what I deem as palatable for me. So for example, cereals. or rice cakes or something. I could overeat on that, and I don't think that I could on something like pizza necessarily.
Is that more of a mindset thing, though?
No, I don't. No, I mean,
it really doesn't make any sense to me.
Because when you think about a cereal, isn't quote unquote, if we really want to categorize it now, I don't think that cereal is healthier than a pizza. Especially when we're talking about a pizza like just a normal dough with some olive oil, some buffalo mozzarella, some tomato sauce. You can't really tell me that these things are less healthy than something like cereal. Cereal is just a produced product, a bunch of sugar pressed together, right? With some certain flavors in that. And I could easily overeat on cereals, but I don't think that I could easily overeat on pizza. And that has nothing to do with the mindset, but more so to how I react and what I deemed as palatable.
Interesting. No, I mean, I never would quote foods against foods as this is more healthful than this, really, because as we know, it's an entire context of the diet. It's just, I just see those. I'd say it's probably more those people who are very strict and dogmatic and clean eating, and then they're like, but I don't ever, like, I'm eating 100% dark chocolate because I prefer, like, that's tastier than, like, milk chocolate. And I'm thinking, I've eaten 100% dark chocolate. I'm not sure there's many people in the world that would like that, like, as a choice over just milk chocolate. Like, I can understand individual difference in taste buds and things, but I think some of them are so set in there, I must eat this way, therefore everything else is wrong and bad, that they're just so unaccepting of the fact that these foods are actually made to be like the most palatable. There's a reason they don't sell chocolate bars that are 100%.
Certainly. I mean, there's probably some truth to it, and it's like the majority of people will probably favor a ratio of, I don't know, there's a certain ratio of fats to carbohydrates, which creates some kind of sensory stimulus in your brain, right?
I think it's like cheesecake is like 50-50 or something, so it's like a perfect balance for most people.
Yeah, and there was a study where they tested it on rats where they had a ratio of, I think it was 60-40, so 60% of carbohydrates to 40% of fats, and the rats didn't stop eating, right? And when you take something like this into consideration, I think that there's probably something to it, that people are just making up their minds and are so convinced in their beliefs that they don't like the food, that maybe it is actually true, like a placebo, right? They are saying that I really don't like that, or let's take medicine, for example, right? Or here, what's it called again? Homeopathy, right? I mean, come on, if you're really, really into health and stuff like that, that is just such a bogus. And if you don't believe me, there's a really great episode over on Sigma Nutrition with one of the founders and head researchers back in the days from examine.com, and he talks a little bit about homeopathy. But when you really believe in that a salt cures you, maybe there's even something to that, right? So the power of your beliefs and the power of your mind can actually have a big impact on how you perceive things. So in that regard, I would say yes, but also I think that there are certainly so many impactors that has an influence on how you perceive and what you deem as palatable. Probably also what you got when you were younger, when you were a child, and what you connotate with a specific food, right? Because most of the time, I think emotions play a big role in that as well. 100%. Like smells, like just the taste alone. And I think that when you as a child were forced from your parents with a stick in their hand, slapping you on the back, right, and you were forced to overeat on pizza, I don't think that you would overeat on pizza right now, right? So I think that certainly there are many different other things that come into play as well. But generally speaking, probably would I say it's the case for everyone? Not really.
Yeah, that was an interesting side tangent. I was going to say something I've completely forgotten. Oh, I know. The only thing I was going to say is Charlotte always gets frustrated with me because and I think I've spoken about it maybe in our group before, in that for me, not necessarily the taste, but I mean, the total enjoyment of a food incorporates taste, it incorporates value for money, and it incorporates its ability to fit within my goals. So I will prefer, I might prefer for taste a meat feast pizza, but I will have a vegetarian pizza because it's so much lower in fat and the calories don't get out of hand that I will prefer that. Out of 10, that will get a 9, whereas a meat feast pizza will get a 5 because it might score highly on taste, but it will score very lowly on how it fits my goals. And so overall, it's not something I particularly enjoy, whereas I much it more the taste of a vegetarian pizza is 8 out of 10, but the ability to fit my goals is again 8 out of 10. Do you have this? Are you similar to that? I bet lots of the listeners will be like, yeah, I'm the same.
Absolutely not, actually. No, while you were saying that, I was just thinking the entire time, I can't really put a specific stamp on it and categorize it as you did, saying, okay, this is that fits my macros, but it tastes all right. That's only the case when, let me put it this way. I need to decipher what situation that is.
I was going to say, these are daily food choices, not special occasions, because that's
then absolutely, because if I go out or if I am on holiday, then the ratio of what is important will change and what is less important will change as well. So when I'm going out eating at a fine cuisine restaurant, Michelin star restaurant, I really don't care about the macros, right?
I don't know if I ever have eaten a Michelin star.
What?
I'm not sure.
Holy shit, Steve. Holy shit, what is wrong with you? I mean, for your next birthday, you know what you get as a present from me. No, but in that case, I mean, I'm not paying 140 quid for counting my macros, taking care of my macros, right? But yeah, on a day-to-day basis, absolutely. Things that fill me up most or satiate me the most while still tasting the best they can for that sacrifice of the food volume and stuff like that. And so definitely the same on a day-to-day basis, but definitely need to decipher whether it is a special occasion, what kind of state you're in, are you gaining, are you cutting and stuff like that, because that would change that as well.
It's what sides do you get at Nando's? Then you pick because you're what hits my macros, what hits my flavors, what hits my taste buds, what hits my value. It's
I've only been at Nando's twice, and the second time was with you, Rob Zand, and who else was there?
Yeah, you didn't eat.
Yeah, I didn't eat because it didn't fit my macros. Damien, exactly. So it didn't fit my macros. So so I only honestly, I only had Nando's once, and it was twice. With you and once at the Shredded by Science Academy. No, Shredded by Science seminar in October 2016. So twice, and both times were just it's all right, but I rather go with a sub.
Yeah, I would prefer a Subway. But I think part of that for me is the macros as well, because the fat just gets out of Nando's. But anyway, we'll get back onto that. Was a complete side tangent, but hopefully slightly interesting for the listeners. Where was I? So yeah, my weight drop. So weight, obviously hunger's come up quite a lot, and weight has dropped significantly. So I was weighing in at on average just over 185 pounds in my final week of deloading actually. And my weight today and for the last few days has been just hovering above 180. So I look to have dropped 5 pounds of basically, I would attribute, 75% of that potentially to water bloat. And so maybe there's a pound or so of fat tissue accompanying that. So that's nice, but it's by no means usable data. It's kind of right, I've not dropped 5 pounds of fat. That's just not happened.
And especially when you dropped your carbs by 400 grams per day. And
I'm going to look so flat in another week or so. It's going to be atrocious. At the moment, I'm it's funny, you see the bloat drop off. So I was waking up the last few days quite sharp, and I was this is quite this is just, you really appreciate it when you do eat that many carbohydrates. you're storing a lot of those, and with all that water weight. So yeah, I think it's been a successful week. The gym's been nice. I'm only training once per day. Haven't incorporated any cardio, just hitting 10,000 steps, which I was apart from yesterday, in which I hit closer. I really wanted to hit 30,000, but I got to 29,000.
Holy shit.
Yeah, I mean, it's a beautiful weather this weekend. I don't know if it's the same for you, but we just walked along the River Thames all the way down to Borough Market and then walked all the way back, and that was
nice.
It's really not. It's kind of like on holiday when it's a nice like city. You just walk all day. You just easily hit, like, I know in Rome we're hitting like 40,000 steps. It's just because, and it's easy. Like, you get a bit tired, but you have coffee breaks and stuff. So that was cool. And yeah, I found the guy, I don't know why I'm bringing this up really, the guy who was wearing squat shoes as normal shoes, and someone messaged me, and I felt a little bit bad because he was like, oh, don't laugh at that guy, he might think they're really, really comfortable shoes to walk around in. I'm like, I can't really take that seriously.
Sorry, but in that regard, right, when people are saying such a comment, it's absolutely fine if they feel that way, but I want to have still some kind of fun in my life, and if I find that funny, then I laugh about it. It's not that I make necessary fun of that person, because you don't know that person, but that situation. I always get it's a little bit of a pet peeve of mine if you're not allowed to make fun of someone, take something with a grain of salt even, or I don't know. We have it so often in our Facebook group that I like to actually put in some ironic comment or something, right? When I see something that could be interpreted as funny, I actually point it out in a subtle kind of way. And people always then jump on board like, people don't take me seriously in here and stuff like that. And I mean, I can't even put it really into words, because it's just like, it makes me a little bit frustrated. I mean, are we supposed to take everything so seriously, and so we always walk around like a grumpy little piece of shit, just because we want to show the other respect, because we are not telling them that we find XYZ funny, or that we wouldn't do XYZ or something. I mean, stand up for your own opinion, and that's absolutely fine. If you then laugh about something, it's not necessary that you make fun of that personality or something, right? And it's just like, I don't know.
It was just,
am I a little bit too wild in that regard? I mean,
no, well, you know, you're a bit wilder, I guess, in that regard than me, and I'm fairly sensitive to people's opinions in that sort of thing. But that was just like, he'd obviously not even looked that they were like squat weightlifting shoes or anything. And then because they had the heel was like worn on one side, so it's obvious he wears them a lot as like day-to-day shoes. And I just thought, these are squat shoes. It's funny that someone's wearing those as daily shoes, because it must be such a pain in the ass to walk around in like the solid sole.
Yeah.
But yeah, apart from all of that, it's been a good first week, and I'm thinking at the moment, if progress keeps going pretty good, I only have like maybe 2% of body fat that I really want to lose, 2 to 3%. So I reckon I can get this mini cut done, really mini, in like 3 and at max 4 weeks. I'm not going for more than 4 weeks. I'm calling it potentially at 3 weeks. So I might even show you some pictures, Pascal, and you can actually, I know if I show you some 3 weeks, it doesn't matter how I look, you'll be like, stop, go to mass. So that might be all I need.
Striated glutes.
Yeah, they're not striated yet. That's all right. They're still fat enough. But yeah, I'm happy with how it's all going. I think the hunger hasn't really dissipated. It kind of comes and goes, but managing that as best I can. Just been incorporating better choices throughout my day, and training once per day helps with that actually, because then I don't need to have like the high glycemic and carbohydrates are easy to digest, don't fill you up at all, and that can, I know you've had experience with that and how that can create kind of havoc in terms of hunger. So that's all good. How's your week going, Pascal?
Yeah, I implemented squats again like 2 days ago, and they fucked me up big time. So implemented, right, quote unquote, because I just needed a layoff like 1.5 weeks. Last episode I was talking about that my tibia got a little bit inflamed, and that I need to stop squatting for that time being while it was present. And the first lower body session, I wasn't able to squat. I could still feel it a little bit in my tibia, so I just postponed it. Did my hamstring dominant workout as the first lower body session, and then did the second lower body session quad dominant with the high bar squats. And only because I had 1.5 weeks where I didn't squat, I went in, did 3 sets of squats, and I'm still sore, which is insane. It's insane. But we spoke about it offline already, that it just goes to show that at a certain weight, it just is so metabolically disruptive that you don't need much. And I also can feel it while I'm working out. I never liked the word working out, actually. That sounds like back in the 90s doing some pump work and stuff like that. No, when I'm training and doing my set, first set is already like, holy shit, that was tough, eh? That was tough. Okay, let's go for the second one. And the second one, you can already feel that your legs, the fibers get kind of ripped a little bit and stretched and stuff, right? And then the third set is always kind of the end already, right? Afterwards, it's just like super out of breath, totally fucked up. And I could actually call it a day most of the time. Then I need a little bit of time to recover, and then I actually do the other exercises. But that beats me up big time. Always.
I think we're saying off air how like leg training now just like beats us both up like big time. I can't, I want to, like my legs, my quads are a weak point. I want to bring them up, but I can't train them like, unless I did very low work, like working volumes where they maybe didn't even get sore at all, like not a chance. Could I train them with any sort of high frequency? If I do like an overloading workout with like a decent, like I did 3 sets of squats and then I did 3 sets of, I think they were Smith machine squats, and my legs were like quite sore after that. I couldn't do, like, I can't overload them really more than twice. I couldn't overload them more than twice a week, and that's put my hamstrings on the back burner.
So my goal would actually be to squat 200 kilograms for 8 repetitions with reps in reserve. But that's not going to happen in this off season. Hopefully then that's the goal for 2020 or something. That would be amazing.
That's a lofty goal. That's a cool goal.
I mean, I'm not that far away. Okay, 30 kilograms on that level is already quite a lot. But it's still attainable, and
good squats as well. You could probably get there if you started like taking an inch away every single session.
Totally. No, right. I mean, as deep as I can comfortably. And with the current technique and stuff, I could easily creep up with weight currently, but I know that my form would break a little bit, and that's simply not worth it. That's why I also stuck with 170 kilograms for the last, I think, 3 or 4 weeks now, just to really ingrain the technique and make every rep count as much as possible. And I think that I will stick with that weight for a longer period of time, just to really master it, and then creep up slowly again, maybe up to 175, up to 180 if that's possible. But I'm not entirely sure if that's even possible in that off season right now, especially with the traveling coming up, going to Australia, then to the UK. Then I have still half a year left before the contest prep starts. 6 months, that is a long period of time. Potentially it is possible to get then to 405 for reps. So what is it, 182.5 kilogram, I think. That would be actually amazing, just to have it on your list of achievements and stuff. But well, that's a long way to go.
180 would be 4 plates, would it not? Yeah, 40, 80. Yeah, 180 would be 4 plates each side, so that's cool.
That's really cool.
But you do see it all the time. People will chase those like weight goals, and their form will just start going to poop.
Man, it's so funny because I was just
going to say, or they choose a form where they kind of have it, but they know if they just reduce the weight by like 10%, they could have a pristine form. And as a bodybuilder, it's so important. Just go with it's not the easier option to take the lower weight and the better form. It's the better option. Man,
I know back in the days I was always putting too much emphasis on the numbers and how it also looked on the bar itself.
Yeah, the 4 plates.
Yeah, totally. Or when I did something like deadlifts, I think I pushed it too far too often because I wanted to have the number of plates stacked up. I wanted, I don't know, to be a little bit of a show off in the gym as well, because in my gym during my times, there aren't many people who are strong, right? And if they see a guy like squatting, like right now, it's quite funny because three weeks ago, there was a guy training in the morning, super funny guy actually, also a little bit weird, who was always jumping around, dancing around, talking to all the people in the gym, right? And he just came up to me while I was loading up for 170 kilograms on the squat. And he was just like saying, are you really going to squat that? And I told him, yeah, probably for 8 repetitions. And he was just saying, well, if I just would stand up with that weight, it would crush and destroy me. And I was just like, holy shit, thank you very much, sir. No, but in general, I think looking back in hindsight, I chased too often either the visual appearance on the bar, because it does something to you, right? Or the numbers in it for itself, even if you weren't ready for it. Because those are kind of milestones. Let's just say something like 180 kilograms. The number in it for itself, if you've never achieved that, it was always a goal of yours, can even frighten you to such an extent that 170 felt easy, but once you go to 180, you're not even able to do it, right? Because you're just so afraid of it. And as a bodybuilder, you have no business in going there if your form and technique isn't on point. And I had to learn it the hard way.
Yeah, I mean, we both have suffered injuries from chasing weight on the bar, and yeah, it sucks. But it's actually really, I found when I focus more on form and just like slow progressions, my squats ended up creeping into territory. I'm like, oh, I'm putting on like 160 for my hypertrophy work. Like, that's pretty cool. Like double body weight for like good reps. And it's just by creeping. And I've had clients say that to me as well. They're like, it's really weird. I'm now creeping this weight up. And this is like weight I used to like struggle to do like triples with. And now it's like my standard volume work is pretty cool.
Man, there's one thing I have to tell you. I'm actually quite impressed by your RDL weight.
Oh.
I'm far away from that. I think actually quite strong, mate.
My deadlifts, like hip hinge movements, they're always like my good mornings. I think my good mornings aren't that far away from like Mike Israetel's, which is ridiculous because he's fucking way stronger than me.
Yeah, and also your sumo deadlifts. I mean, doing like, what was it, 194 8 repetitions or something?
Yeah,
that's a lot.
I think it's partly strong glutes and hamstrings, and then I have a long torso and short legs, so that helps.
For me personally, RDLs are so much behind everything, simply because my lower back is overpowering a lot of my glute and hamstring work. And if I don't watch out, then my lower back is rounding and takes over the work from the RDLs. Thus, I really need to lower the weight to actually just do the hip hinge, keep my lower back straight, and let the glutes and the hamstrings do the work.
Yeah, it's interesting. I found, well, for us, your strong points are like my weak points, and like vice versa. Like your pressing movements, like, well, not that my squatting, my pressing is really weak, but you're stronger there, and comparatively, your kind of hamstring and glute work is weaker than mine. I know with Jacob, I watch his like deadlifts and I'm like, oh, I can pretty much match or beat him on deadlifts. And I look at his squats, I'm like, and his quad size and his pressing movements, I'm like, fuck, like you're so far ahead of me here.
God,
his key just has the mother of all quads. Is that even the right phrase? I don't know.
It's just insane because he said it himself that back in the days with his first competition, stuff like that, his legs were just such a weak point. And then he brought it up, and the quads are now insane. Jacob, what are you doing? When I'm coming over to Australia, give me all the drugs and magic pills, please.
He's secretly being trained by, why have I forgotten his name? Who is the guy I've been looking at recently?
Harney Rambod.
Harney Rambod? No.
No, I don't think that he is.
It was, his name's completely gone from my head. No, I can't remember.
Tom Platz.
Tom Platz, that's the one. Yeah, it's like, he actually has quads similar to Tom Platz in many ways. Like, just nuts. So where are we? How was
this episode?
It's been all over the place.
We are just going off tangent.
We do have a topic to come into, and you kind of came into it with your training in that no one's squatting heavy, and well, you're squatting heavy like compared to everyone else because I mean, like you're basically a big fish in a small pond kind of thing in terms of strength and advancement.
Super! What a big fish I am.
And this quite often happens in like commercial gyms where it's just lots of just gen pop people who are just going in there and they're just working out. They're not training towards anything particularly. They're just going in there and I mean, I try and not watch them too much because it just makes me feel a little piece of me dies inside when I see some people.
Fortunately.
And a question came into our group where they were talking about training environment. Should they pick somewhere that has a great training environment where they feel very motivated, or should they go to like a commercial gym that has much better equipment available? And it's also the topic we wanted to talk about was kind of like training alone versus training like with partners, I guess. And I thought this was interesting because both me and Pascal train in like a commercial gym where the environment isn't the environment we'd want. But the equipment is, I mean, it's convenient. And I mean, the equipment in your gym is fantastic. Mine's fine. And we both train alone without training partners. So I thought it would just be interesting to talk about the pros, the cons, how we deal with that ourselves. Because I've had training, I don't know if you ever have had training partners in the past, Pascal. I have for short periods of time, but never when I was very, very serious. But ever since I took things seriously, never had a training partner. Just has never worked for me. Mm-hmm. And I personally like being solo. Maybe it's because I've never found the right person to train with, but I always find when someone tries to train with me and do my routine, I get a bit like, this isn't right for you. This isn't what you should be doing. You should be doing your own routine. And then quite often I find they haven't got the same mindset as me. They aren't as invested in the gym. They don't push themselves as hard. And so I sometimes feel a little bit uncomfortable doing what I'm trying to do with them there. I found myself like when I'm really pushing it and I'm going to like this RPE, they're like looking at me as if they're thinking I'm going to stop. And I'm like, I've still got reps in the tank. Like, stop putting me off. Like I'm pushing harder still. And I've just never really got on with having a partner there. It's always been, I kind of put it in many ways. I say I create my own environment in the commercial gym. I put my headphones, I focus on what I'm doing. I create my own, like I get in the squat rack. It's now my environment. There's nothing around me. I space out almost. There's actually a guy in my gym. He puts on a hoodie and ties the things really tight so he can only see out like this, as if he's like Kenny from South Park. And he's a bit of a nut job, to be honest. He puts me off quite a lot because I look at it and I'm just like, what the fuck are you doing? But anyway, I don't do that. But I'm very much like, if people probably don't approach me much in the gym because I probably have a little bit of a resting bitch face and I'm very much into my music and just like, I zone out quite a bit. I don't know about you, Pascal. How do you feel about training partners and what's been your kind of way of getting productive training?
Yeah, I think we are quite the same on that regard, especially the points you brought up were just fantastic. And I feel absolutely the same when it comes to my work ethics, my goals, and how I approach training. But the thing is, I also need to note, though, is that I never had a training partner. So I can't really compare it. And I'm making up my mind and having some kind of a superficial mindset in regard to that, where I'm just like, okay, that needs to be the way a training partner should be without ever having given it a try, right? But it's like with me and relationships. I'm not going into a relationship if I really don't feel like it. And I think it's the same there. It needs to work out, I mean, in many regards. It should be someone. I always bring up that example from pumping iron because I loved the fucking environment they had running back in the days, where it was like a bunch of like-minded individuals. They had the same passion, the same goals. They were friends, but still they were competitors as well. And that environment, that combination of being close friends, having the same passion, same goals, while still acknowledging that you are still competitors when it comes to the overall goal, I think it's a recipe for success, because that just pushes you massively. Yeah. If you have the same goals and you see your friend is outworking you, I think that you will actually get your ass up and try to work even harder. And something like this I would love to have, because I think you will get quite into new territories then, just from the work you're not willing to do now. Yeah. You think you're working hard, right? You think that you give it your all, but potentially you have still something left in your tank, but it feels like you can't do anymore. There's always that analogy, which I don't really like that much, when people say, when there's someone holding a gun to your head, would you be able to do that set? Of course you will, but do you want to train every single day like as if you're dying for the next 30 or 40 years?
Not sure that's realistic, really.
No, right? And thus, I don't really like that analogy that much, but there's something to it.
Yeah.
Because I think that studies have shown it, right? But we also know it from personal anecdote that not everyone is really pushing it hard, and they stop their set shy of failure like big time. And potentially that's the same with me, but the perceived exertion I have in that situation without a training partner is maybe limiting me, because I think that this is all I have. But when there's someone watching me, someone I want to outwork, potentially I have even more in the tank to actually do and still recover just fine and stuff like that. So that being said, I think it would be lovely to have an atmosphere and train in an atmosphere such as the example of pumping iron. But I couldn't say for sure that it would suit my personality, because I like to have my free space and my thing that is only my thing, and that there's no one else getting into that environment, because this is something I do for myself, right? So it's a little bit. I'm a little bit drawn between the two sides. I think could potentially be really, really cool, but I've never tried it and I've never had it. Would I be willing to give it a try? Definitely. Would it be something for me? I couldn't say, right? And thus, it's like the same with you right now. I put on my headphones, I get into the zone, and people who know me in the gym know that they shouldn't approach me before I do my heavy compound lifts, especially when it's something like heavy squats. And then in that situation, I also let them know that I'm not here to actually chit chat. I'm here to train. And if you want to have a chit chat, we can do it when I'm doing my isolation work, right? Or after the training session. But when I'm here, I'm training. I'm not here to interact and socialize with people. And especially in a gym environment and gym setting such as mine, where I would even say like 95% of the people are only there to work out, and potentially because it's what people do, right? They go to a gym to be healthy. They aren't really there to improve. They are more so there to socialize, to do a little bit something for themselves, but not in regards to the improvement of a body composition or something.
which I think is absolutely fine. It's just realizing then that if you train like them, you're not going to see the improvements you want, because we have to go there, as it were, like Ryan and Alberto said, and you have to go to places where most people won't want to go. And that's the same with dieting and things like this. And no, I think it's so true in that. Even if I had, if I had a training partner, it'd literally have to be someone like you, Pascal. And actually, I was going to say, when you come over to London, it'd be interesting to see if we actually line up our training sessions. And I think we probably will. I still think we won't be like on each other the whole time, but in situations where it would be beneficial, I think then you can use it. Kind of the way I'm thinking about it is like caffeine, or like getting very psyched up for lifts. I think you can't do that every day. You can't just smash caffeine every single workout and expect it to give you the same kick every time. And the thing people often forget is they know it was psyching up, because afterwards you're fucked. Like I know I psych myself up for like a heavy squat or a heavy deadlift. I'm fucked the rest of the day. Like it just absolutely wipes me out and I can't recover from that. So if you're psyching yourself up or taking caffeine all the time, then I think it kind of kills you off. In the same way, if you have that training partner who's going to push you to places you maybe don't normally push yourself, I think using that at appropriate times is right. Like maybe the week before your deload, have someone there, like when you really need someone to push you and take you to places you haven't gone before, fine. But if I was in the first week of my mesocycle and you were like shouting at me to do squats, like keep going, see if you've got more reps in the tank, I'd be like, fuck you, I'm going to be dead and I'm not going to be able to accumulate volume for the rest of this mesocycle.
Totally, and you bring up a good point, because it could be the other way around as well. I mean, people think that training with a partner will always push you. But just keep in mind, maybe it could even hold you back, because when you're good friends, maybe you are actually chit-chatting, and maybe you get into that mindset where it's just more of a relaxed state, rather than, okay, let's both get into the zone and let's both go there to actually make the workout great. And I don't think, and I don't see it often, that this is actually the case. That when people train together, that's more like, I see it so often in my gym, but once again, my gym is not really that bodybuilding gym or something like that. That's more just recreational lifters who want to do something. They don't really have a plan on what to do. And you see many people train together with someone else, and it's just like, there was, I don't even remember when it was, a couple of weeks back. There was even a moment where someone was like doing, I think, chest supported T-bar rows, and he was talking while he was doing that with the one standing next to him. Right? And it could be the other way around as well, that with a training partner, you're actually not pushing yourself, but you could even potentially hold yourself even more back, because both need to be in that zone where it's just like, okay, we are here to train. Friendship is not present right now. Yeah. It's all about the gains, right? And that need to be present. And if that's not present, I mean, I think that it wouldn't be a good idea to actually then have that kind of training partner at your side. I wanted to say something else as well, but I totally forgot what it was.
I was just going to relate to, I could completely relate to John Meadows when he said he kind of has to tell people that now he's here, like he can talk. Oh no, wait, is it John Meadows or was it Scott Stevenson? I think it was Scott Stevenson, where he's a super friendly guy. Like he wants to talk to everyone. And we've already spoken about how I'm quite like in many ways a bit soft, and like I don't like being rude. Like I'll put myself out to not be rude in many occasions, which frustrates the hell out of me that I'm like that, but it's just part of who I am. And I've had it before in the past where I've trained with friends and I've like stopped myself doing things because I feel like I'm being rude. And I'm like, this is like, it's the ultimate frustration where I'm like, I want to just fucking train, and I don't want like, I feel like I'm being rude by just training and doing my own thing. And so, yeah, like you said, I've not found that person who can fit that role. And I think you have to be very careful, as we've already outlined, who you pick to be your training partner. And in many ways, it could just be easier just to do it yourself. But then you have to be that self. And I think anyone who is a bodybuilder going to be a fine training partner for themselves, because bodybuilders, if you're any good at that sport, you have to be very determined, and like it's all on you. You haven't got teammates, it's just you. And I like that about bodybuilding.
No, me too. And it's the same. So funny because my personality changed so drastically over the past 10 years. And back in the days, I always needed to be surrounded by people. I always needed to socialize and stuff like that. And that's absolutely not the case anymore. It's not that I don't like to socialize, but I also do appreciate my time, Pascal time. That is only for me. That is only in my world present. Is only serving my priorities, my satisfaction, and bodybuilding is one of them. If someone comes into my life that has the same kind of thoughts, passion, and stuff like that, and it works out that you train at the same time, something like that, right? Perfect, right? Perfect. But I'm not desperately looking for a training partner just to make it happen. And now I remembered what I wanted to say, and that is last week actually, a friend of mine, she was working out. She was working out at the gym, and we were just having a little bit of a chat because I know her since I think 7 years or something, right? So a really good friend of mine. I don't get to see her often. So we were having a little bit of a chat, and she was just like asking me why I'm not using any kind of safety pins while squatting, why I'm not having someone spotting me. And I basically said, because I, first and foremost, only take the weight I can control. And second of all, I stop reps shy of failure. And thus, I don't need someone who saves me when I'm benching, for example, because I can't manage the last rep. And I don't even remember the last time I went there, where it was just such a grind that I failed. I mean, muscularly and not technically, right? And it quite struck me on that moment because I see it with so many people that when they are having a training partner, they always go to super hard muscular failure, but also technical failure for many people, right? At the same time, and then they are helping out, right? And it's just like, we all know that, and people make jokes of it, but it's so present, and it doesn't need to be that way. And especially when you do it on the first set, it's just like, okay, how many sets do you think you can do afterwards? Like 2? Maybe the third set could possibly happen, but with how many reps? Not many, right? So train more so intelligently, and you don't have to have a training partner just for the sake of spotting or just for the sake of security, because I think that many people actually only have it because of that.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good point as well, because people will be thinking like, yeah, how do you go there on those movements? And the point is, you don't. On squats, big compounds, bench presses, deadlifts, you don't go to that point of failure. You do stop short. Even in the weeks where you are like trying to get everything, even if you're doing an AMRAP, you don't push it to that point where you actually, I was going to say, I can't remember the last time I failed a squat. No, I definitely can, because I fucked up.
It's not that long time ago.
And I put on like 190 on the bar and I thought it was 170 or something. Yeah, that was a big fuck up. But I mean, apart from that, like I don't fail on squats. I do leave knowing that maybe, like most of the time actually, I leave in that final week before deloading. It's probably a case of maybe I could have got one rep out. If I did, it would have been lucky. I probably would have gone down and failed. That's where I tend to leave it. And same on bench press. Like there's no the risk to reward ratio it's just so slanted in risk's favor in that scenario. On machines, on like isolation movements, fine, go there, go to failure. You can even push past failure if that's like what you want to do. But on those big compound lifts, yeah, you don't need to go there,
man. And it's just the thing of fatigue management as well. I mean, going to failure creates so much fatigue, and why not even if you don't have the best training day on that day, right? And the fatigue sets in really quickly, and all of a sudden you are doing, let's just say, bench second set, and you can't really hit the target rep ranges because you are surprised by the fatigue setting in. Just leave still 1 rep left in the tank and do an additional set. You can always do an additional set, right? And that will definitely be less risky than always pushing it close to failure, and by all means getting into the prescribed rep ranges for you. Then rather split it, instead of doing 3 sets of 6 repetitions, do a 4th set with only like 2 or 3 reps then to fill it up. That's way less risky, and you are still doing the same amount of volume or total tonnage, right? Volume load, all the terms for that. Then when you are going close to failure with less risk and with probably less overall systemic fatigue for the next days.
Yeah, it's having that knowledge that you can do that is so powerful.
Yeah.
But don't abuse that. I've had clients who have abused that situation. I'm
Totally.
like, if you're doing this every week, we're doing your fatigue's too high all the time. So no, that was an awesome point. We've got 50 minutes. We have probably, I don't know if I have anything else to add about training partners. I think we're both very similar minded in this, and I think a lot of the listeners will be able to listen. And I think my biggest takeaway is that you don't need a training partner to push you, and like, you can go there yourself. Just get into that mindset. And if you do have a training partner, really have an assessment of whether they're actually bringing you up or worsening your progress, because I'd hate for them to be making it worse. And you can socialize outside the gym. It definitely used to, when I first got into the gym, it was definitely like a social thing. But the more I've got into bodybuilding, the more I've isolated myself and the better I've become.
No, absolutely. I have nothing to add on that front.
Awesome.
Cool.
The only other things I want to say is tickets are still on sale. When this comes out, it'll be like the last few weeks of early bird. So definitely get yourself an early bird ticket if you're interested. On the 14th and 15th of July in the advanced hypertrophy seminar, the guys are going over some really interesting topics. Something I'm very interested to see from Jared is he's going over like setting up macro cycles for competitors, off-season contest prep, in terms of like mesocycle setup, making it phasic, and potentiating in that manner. Really cool stuff that's going to help you as a coach, client, or just a general trainee, because it will still help you in your off seasons or whatever you're doing yourself. So they're on sale. Link will be below for those tickets. Obviously, there's 1 VIP ticket left. It may have sold out by the time this comes out. But yeah, there was only 20. There's 1 left. That's for both days you get, and the second day is in a performance ground, which is very near Covent Garden. Really nice facility, and that's going to be really, really valuable. That's the really fun day. The first day is excellent for knowledge. The second day is just like, if you just love lifting and hypertrophy and you want to get to know some people who are very like-minded, it's just a really cool day. So I don't think there's anything else apart from that I wanted to bring up.
Good.
Awesome. Plug's done. Cheers, guys. We'll talk to you soon.
Goodbye.